What's going on, gamers? Chongo here, and today I've got a gameplay commentary for you guys. The gameplay is of Saints Row 3 on the PC, and today's commentary topic is going to be about THQ and what's going to be happening with them on January 22nd this year. Now, if you haven't already heard, last year THQ, towards the end, I think it was December 19th, filed for bankruptcy. So yeah, they're not in a very good position right now, and news has just come out recently that they're going to be selling off or auctioning their IPs. Now, the different games that are up for auction are WWE, Saints Row, Company of Heroes, Dawn of War, Metro, as well as South Park: The Stick of Truth. Many publishers have already been interested in this because obviously it would be good for them to pick up an already known game and just fund it and yeah, basically get all the profits from it. So I'm thinking Saints Row is going to be probably a big seller. I'm not really sure who's going to pick it up. It wouldn't surprise me if EA or Activision or anything like that, just one of them just grabbed it or whatever. Even Ubisoft might give it a go. So it'll be interesting to see which companies, choose to pick out which games. It may also mean that some companies may not even choose a game and a game may not actually sell because no one is actually interested in it. However, I can see most of the games going to obviously the bigger developers, and some of the smaller ones may not sell, but I'm guessing that majority of them will. It's quite sad really, because it probably ends up meaning that THQ will no longer exist after this, because I mean, once their IPs have sold, they're not really a company anymore. They won't really be doing much. It's interesting to see they may actually, I don't know, do something in the future when they, get out of bankruptcy, or basically they might start something up on a smaller development team and may only work on one or two games as opposed to working on all these games that they've been working on currently. But yeah, it's quite sad because if you can't really make like a really good game and yield all this profit, this kind of studio can go really down really fast, especially when you've got many different games that you're making. So if one does really well, for example, Saints Row 3, it doesn't really matter, because if you have a couple of other games that you make that don't really go as well, that obviously evens it out, and it ends up feeling like you've only made a couple of mediocre games as opposed to a really good game and an average game. Now, if you were like me, and last year when they announced the THQ Humble Bundle, and you basically paid for it to get, Saints Row 3 on PC and all that kind of stuff, I had played Saints Row 3 on the Xbox, it's just now more on PC. Anyway, that was pretty much their last straw. They were trying to get funding. Even though they did get quite a lot of money off it, it wasn't enough to save the company. Now, with this news, it's basically led me to think about the gaming industry in general, and just how it's becoming more and more evident that being a big company can actually be a disadvantage because of all the people you have to pay, and basically that's what resulted in what happened to THQ. Whereas, that's why I kind of feel that indie games are on the rise at the moment as well, because you don't really need that much startup money, and yeah, you don't have to pay that many people. And I mean, the gaming industry in Australia has been looking very grim for a long amount of time, and it's one of the reasons, like, back when I was choosing my course for university, I was interested in gaming. I didn't know what I would do in it, but I thought I might, sign up for a degree, but then I decided, just looking into it, that the gaming industry in Australia is pretty much stuffed. It's going backwards. There is no real companies coming up. For the most part, you really have to go into indie if you want to be in Australia, just because majority of these gaming places in Australia aren't hiring, they're firing. So it's kind of sad that, that this whole industry, especially in Australia, is dying. But if you're really good, you can still do it and obviously move overseas. But it's pretty much the most competitive industry that I can think of, because yeah, if you're not the toppest, like the best programmer or whatever, you're not really going to be able to find a job. So I think in the future we'll probably see a lot more indie games as well, just because of people who go and do a degree in, gaming, but then they can't really find a company to join, because obviously the companies, I think, are going to try and get smaller, just because when they can't hold all these people. It's getting to the point where there are so many different options for a game. If they don't really get the top-notch sales for a game, this is what can happen, especially when, THQ was quite big. They had a lot of games behind them, and all of a sudden, yeah, they were just screwed. So it's something to kind of think about, and it's kind of sad as well, because there was nothing they could really do about it. I mean, they tried everything. They tried selling their games really cheap to get them to sell really fast, and obviously that helped them a little bit, but obviously not enough to save their company. So even though gaming is kind of becoming a lot more of a competitive industry, that's pretty good for the consumers, because we're getting better games, because people are obviously competing with each other to make the best possible title. It's kind of bad for the developers, just because, yeah, they can get dominated, and if they don't make the best top-notch game, it won't sell enough copies, and then, yeah, their company can go into bankruptcy. So anyway, this brings me to the end of my commentary on THQ and how their games are up for auction. I'd like to hear your guys' opinions on this, whether, you want Saints Row picked up by a certain developer, or what you think about the whole THQ basically being bankrupt, or anything like that. Just put them down below. And if you like this video, give it a like, and if you want to join the Gamerhood, just subscribe. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.